Ocean, Tuichi Nagata, hello, how are you all doing? In this video, we're going to talk about setting, and it's a good place to start crafting your digital story. If you remember from the literary web for creators, the setting is the background against which all the action takes place, right? It's where your characters exist, right? It's where they do everything. It's a geographical location, right? A very specific geographical location. And it's a specific time period, right? So we can think about a place and a time when we're thinking about setting. Now, for my blog, right, which I set in the universe of No Man's Sky, the setting really did inspire me to create this blog because there are an almost infinite number of settings here in this game because it's procedurally generated. But you can use this fan fiction approach too to take, your favorite movie, your favorite video game, your favorite blog, and let that setting inspire your own story. If you are grasping for settings or want to be more inspired when it comes to different settings, check out the Reddit group World Building. This is a community where people spend hours and hours just building their own worlds, right? Now, if you're spending a lot of time building your world out, you do want to keep in mind that you're probably not going to get all those details thrown into your story, right? You don't want too much exposition, right? We're interested in a story that's set in a world, not just necessarily all the details of the world, but detailing out your world can really help create the characters, create the conflict, and you can do a lot more world building than you actually put in your story, right, as your kind of background work for crafting your digital story. Use the fan fiction method if that works for you, and pick your favorite story and try thinking about that setting. Or if you already have a setting in mind, think about that setting. And what I want you to do for this discussion board post is to post about a very specific setting. And when I say very specific setting, I want you to give me a time period. When does this story take place? Is it in the past? Is it in the present? Or is it in the future? Is it in a more specific time period? Do you have maybe a year that you're thinking of for this setting? Where is the location, right? Where does your story take place? Does it take place in outer space? Does it take place in a hotel, right? Does it take place in a house? Like, where specifically is your story taking place? And the more specific you can be about this location, the easier it is going to be to really craft your story, right? Because the story takes place in a very specific time period and a very specific location. And then the last thing you want to think about and post about is the duration of your story. How much time passes in this story? Is it a day, a week, or a month, right? A shorter duration will give you a tighter story to work with, but you might have a story that stretches on weeks and months, especially if it's like, a periodic journal entry in a blog, for instance, or some type of audio journal, right, that appears periodically in the story. That might be the case. So it's really up to you on how to decide the time period, the location, and the duration of your setting. So once you have figured those three things out, the time period, location, and duration of your setting, I want you to imagine that you are walking or flying or swimming or driving or riding around this setting, however you get around this setting, right? Imagine that you're moving around this setting. And I want you to also post, in addition to the specifics about the setting, what you might see, smell, hear, feel, or taste in this time or place. This is all literary imagery, right? It's you'll use words that will evoke the senses. So what does this literary imagery, or this sensory imagery, if you will, tell you about the world around you, right? And what might we expect to happen in this setting while we're moving around it, flying or swimming or riding or driving around this setting? What might be normal to happen, or what might, we expect maybe a spectacular event happening in this setting? And then last of all, I want you to post about What type of people, plants, and animals exist in this setting? If we have a future kind of cyberpunk dystopian setting, right, set in a big metropolis, we might not have any animals except for human animals, right? But if we're set in, some of these planets that, that have never been, no one's ever been to, we might see all sorts of interesting plants and animals like in the video game No Man's Sky here. So those are the things that I want you to answer about your setting. Not only the time period, location, duration, but the sensory imagery, right? What you can hear, smell, feel, and otherwise. And I'll post these questions in the discussion board so you could follow along with them. Now, once you've fleshed out your setting here, I want you to create something that belongs in that setting. This is a fictional artifact. And a fictional artifact is just what it sounds like. It's just an object that belongs in that setting, right? An artifact is an item that exists in the world of a story that you want to tell. One thing that you can think about is that this artifact might also be important to your character, right? This might be a magical artifact. It might be mundane, right? It might be as simple as a number 2 lead pencil that is important to your character, right? It could be, a magical ring, like in Lord of the Rings. It could really be anything that you want it to be. You could take something that it seems mundane, like the pencil, but make it important to your character, right? Breathe life into that artifact and make it an important part of the story. But it can be literally anything. It could be a drawing, a photograph, a song, a snippet of audio, a Twitter post, a screenshot, anything else that might exist in your world, in this fictional world you're crafting, or non-fictional, right? Just as importantly, when we're thinking about a non-fiction story, right, that there's still a world around that non-fiction story, right? So I don't want you to think that you can't tell a non-fiction story just as easily. But I want you to post that artifact along with your descriptions of the setting. Now, you can just randomly, Google certain things and find an image that you like that represents that artifact. That is just fine, right? This is part of the creative process here. Or if you are visually artistic and you would like to draw or otherwise digitally create a visual of your artifact yourself, you are more than welcome to do that. But what we need is a setting and then an artifact that exists in that setting. And I think once we do that, you'll find that the setting is coming to life more in your mind, and that you're going to have a lot more potential for stories to tell within this setting.